This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Good afternoon, Carl Deffenbaugh joining you from the Wisconsin Live Desk on this Thursday afternoon here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It is 12:30 Central Time, 52 degrees as we give you a live look at downtown Milwaukee on this Thursday. A cloudy one. We had some sunshine earlier, but rain on the way here in the state of Wisconsin. Now, over the next hour or so, we are going to bring you around the state, around Milwaukee, for the news of the day as it happens. And unfortunately, we have to start with potentially another tragedy on a school campus in our country. As we take you down south to Tallahassee, Florida, this is a live picture from reporting partner, a sister station there, WCTV in Tallahassee, Florida, after a shelter-in-place alert. And you're going to see this reporter go in and out periodically throughout. He is doing work for his affiliate station down there, while we are also using that feed to bring you to the news as it happens after reports of an active shooter on the campus of Florida State. Now, this started with an alert from the Florida State alert system that went out around noon Eastern time. So that would be about 11 o'clock in the morning here in Wisconsin, but around noon, around lunchtime on the Tallahassee campus of Florida State. The active shooter reported in the area of the Student Union at the Florida State campus, and since then there have been a number of different law enforcement agencies, of course Tallahassee Police, Florida State PD, as well as the FBI, all responding to this on campus near the Student Union. From what we know right now, the information that we've received, as you see a number of students, I'm sure, texting, calling, trying to figure out friends, family, teachers, and the like, are you okay, and can they report back that they are in fact safe? From what we've heard so far, the hospital in the area, Tallahassee Memorial, has received and treated people affected by the shooting. That's according to a hospital spokesperson. But that woman could not say the number of people in care at the hospital from this shooting. The details still very much unfolding as we are giving you that live picture, the law enforcement response right now from Tallahassee. From the reporting that we've heard from the campus, hundreds of students could be seen streaming away from the direction of that student union, glued to their phones, some of them visibly emotional as well. In fact, we heard from a 20-year-old, a junior, Joshua Sermons, who was in the main library when he said alarms started going off, warning about an active shooter. Sermons said law enforcement officers escorted him and other students out of the library. They had their hands over their heads for protection. FBI officials have been on the scene, and according to that alert, which again went out around 11 o'clock Eastern time in Tallahassee, students were being told to lock and stay away from all the doors and windows and be prepared to take additional protective measures. Now, in the just about 90 minutes since the very first alert went out, we do know that there is in fact a shooting on the campus of Florida State. We do not know the number of people that have been sent to a nearby hospital, though there have been a series of people going to that hospital, according to the spokesperson for Tallahassee Memorial, and still very much trying to figure out what exactly happened here, who this shooter was, how many people were injured, is it students, is it staff, as you're seeing a very active investigation from Tallahassee and the campus of Florida State right now, which was centered around the student union. We will continue to check in as we can throughout the next hour or so, again, with this feed from a reporting station down there, WCTV, on the scene. That reporter specifically has been there for quite some time. We'll see what we can bring you in terms of information. You're seeing hugs and emotion from people on campus going about their day, right, around the lunch hour on a Thursday on campus, and then all of that changes in a moment. Some people hearing gunshots, others receiving that alert from the Florida State alert system on their phone to shelter in place because of reports of an active shooter on campus. And we know there have been injuries. We do not know the extent of those injuries or the number of people injured in this campus shooting. And we should mention as well, not that these are connected, but it's notable, a date on the calendar, today being April 17th. Yesterday was the memorial held on the campus of Virginia Tech University for one of the deadliest campus shootings in U.S. history. That happened on April 16th of 2007, so going back a number of years, when 32 members of the Virginia Tech family were killed in an on-campus shooting. That memorial was held in Blacksburg, Virginia yesterday to honor those 32 victims. Today, a day later, a different state, a different campus, but a similar scene as students and staff are trying to figure out what exactly happened after an on-campus shooting at Florida State University. In the meantime, some of the other things that we will try to bring you over the next hour or so here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. We do have the potential to see Gary Day. He is the man accused of kidnapping a teenager, a pregnant teenager, from Beaver Dam, abducting her in what turned out to be an Amber Alert spread across a number of states. He is supposed to make his first appearance in court here in Wisconsin today. That's expected around 12:45 or so, 12:35 the time right now, so about 10 minutes from now. We do have a reporter on the scene in the courthouse for us in Dodge County when Gary Day is supposed to make his first appearance. We'll try to bring that to you live here on the Wisconsin Live Desk as well. And a couple of the other things we're watching on this Thursday afternoon. This is a live feed outside of the courthouse for the Superior Court of California in Los Angeles County. A momentous day potentially today for the Menendez brothers, made famous, of course, after a series of pop culture elements have brought them back, a docu-series as well as a fictionalized series that became quite popular over the last year. Their trial has been very much in the news. Eric and Lyle Menendez could learn this week whether or not they will get reduced sentences and perhaps a chance of freedom nearly 3 decades after they were convicted of murdering their parents. An LA judge is presiding over a resentencing hearing today, expected to last a couple of days, so potentially into Friday. But as you can see, the podium set up outside of the LA County courthouse there, the Superior Court of California. If someone steps to the podium outside after what is day 1 of this resentencing hearing for the Menendez brothers, we will bring you that as well. Now, the brothers would still need approval from the state's parole board to leave prison if that judge indeed shortens their sentence. So a lot of dominoes still to fall for the Menendez brothers, but a case that certainly received national attention 3 decades ago has received renewed interest and a bit of a re-examination of what happened then, the sentencing those brothers faced for the murder of their parents and what was not considered back in 1996 when they were sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for murdering their parents in a killing that happened actually in their Beverly Hills home back in 1989. So this has been going on for quite some time. The brothers were 18 and 21 at the time of those killings. Now they are grown middle-aged men at this case. We'll see what happens from there. And also, we just caught a little bit of this before we came on here with the Wisconsin Live Desk. This was a press conference set up in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, after the governor of Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro, and his family hosted a lunch for some of the different firefighters and other first responders who risked their lives battling an arson attack at the governor's mansion. This is another story that has received national attention. The Robert Irvine Foundation provided food. The first family there, Josh Shapiro and his family, served the food to first responders as a way of showing their thanks for the quick response to that incident. This was after a fire at the governor's residence in Harrisburg last Sunday. An intruder had scaled the fence there, broke windows, threw a number of Molotov cocktails inside the home. Shapiro and his family were asleep at the time. Now, amazingly, no one was hurt in that attack, but the home, if you've seen some of the images going around online and in our news coverage since, significant damage to the governor's mansion. Cleanup crews have been working through the week to try to restore it and make it livable again as a residence. And the suspect in this is a 38-year-old Cody Balmer, who did turn himself into police, admitted that he would have beaten Shapiro with a hammer, the governor of Pennsylvania, if he had run into him during that incident. He did not, and that 38-year-old man, Cody Balmer, was arraigned on Monday, taken to prison without bail. Pennsylvania State Police have announced that they'll engage a third-party expert here conducting an independent security review of the governor's mansion and the security around it after that attack. So a number of things happening around the country for us today. Quite serious, unfortunately, here on the Wisconsin Live Desk today. And we want to get you another live picture. This is, again, from the campus of Florida State University as first responders are on scene for reports of a school shooting at the campus near the student union. The local hospital, Tallahassee Memorial, has said that they are receiving and treating people from this shooting, although the spokesperson did not give confirmed details on the number of people in care or the extent of those injuries. That's kind of the wraparound, what we're seeing right now at 12:40 Central Time here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. We're going to take a short break and be back on the other side of this break with the news as it happens, live from around the country and here in Wisconsin on the Wisconsin Live Desk.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. Carl Deffenbaugh joining you here from our Milwaukee studio on this Thursday afternoon. I mentioned that lunch Governor Josh Shapiro of Pennsylvania was hosting for first responders that respond to the governor's mansion after an arson attack earlier this week. He is speaking right now, so let's listen in to Governor Josh Shapiro speaking in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania after having lunch with first responders that helped save his family's life.
That's a prayer and a hope that we have for our kids every day, that they have peace in their lives. Obviously, that peace was shattered on Sunday morning, but it is a hope and a prayer that we have, not just for our kids, but every child across Pennsylvania, that they live in a society that's free and peaceful, where they are protected and they are watched over by God. Go ahead.
General Services did send an update today about their progress working at the residence, and said that the living space and the workspace should be ready within a few days.
Yeah.
You're here with your family today. What has to happen for you to be comfortable, not just yourself going back, but to bring your family back as well?
We're going to go back as soon as we can. And the Department of General Services has done an extraordinary job working to get the living quarters cleaned and ready for us to come back to. We're a little late today because Lori and I were over there this morning. It was the first time we had the chance to walk through there together. We'll be eager to get back there. On Tuesday, we had the Easter egg roll this coming Tuesday, the Easter egg roll is scheduled. And we're both insistent upon it happening. We want to welcome children and families from all across Pennsylvania back to the governor's residence. Obviously, it'll take some time before we can have them in the state dining room, but we're going to work to get that prepared real quick. We're going right back in there.
What was it like to walk through there today?
You know, it's on the one hand, you're thankful for all the people who are there, who are working to get the People's House back in order and back to a place where we can welcome folks into the home. I'd be lying if I said it wasn't, you know, jarring, scary to see that in the light of day, to see the areas where we either make memories privately up in the residence with our kids, hanging out, laughing, enjoying ourselves, or in the more public spaces where we've been able to welcome so many people to our home, people who ordinarily wouldn't get an invitation to the governor's residence. It's very important to Lori especially that we're bringing so many different kinds of people in. And so to see those spots that are charred and burnt out and glass broken around areas that, you know, before were just happy, special places for us is tough. But we're going to rebuild from that. We're going to be stronger from that. And we're going to, I think, probably have even more purpose in what we do as a result of that.
Mrs. Shapiro.
Excuse me, while Governor Shapiro there continues taking questions from reporters, we want to get to another press conference, a chance for reporters to ask questions of other leaders, including the commander-in-chief right now. As I switch you over to the White House, this is President Donald Trump meeting with the Italian Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, as they have been discussing tariffs, among other things. Meloni, believed to be an ally of Trump. She comes from the more right side of the Italian political landscape over there. A visit to the White House today, and this has just started from the Oval Office in Washington, D.C. So let's listen in live to President Trump and the Italian Prime Minister, Giorgia
having
Meloni.
accepted an invitation to pay an official visit to Rome in the near future and consider the possibility in that occasion to meet also with Europe. The goal for me is to make the West great again, okay? And I think we can do it together.
We can.
We will keep on work on that. I'm going to close. I want to say only I'm proud of sitting here as very good, as a very good situation despite the difficulties. A stable country, reliable country, 1 million more jobs in the last 2 years and a half.
Great.
Inflation is going down, so you forgive me if I promote a bit my country,
Yeah,
but you're a businessman and you understand me. So migration flows going down 60%. Ukraine, I will close. Together we've been defending the freedom of Ukraine. Together we can build a just and lasting peace. We support your efforts, Donald.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I think we're doing well in that effort, but we want to get it done, and we'll see if we can. We want to save. On average, think of it, every week 2,500 people are being killed, mostly soldiers.
Excuse me, while the president continues remarks from the Oval Office here, there's not a lot that would take us away from the President of the United States, but this is the Wisconsin Live Desk, and one of the big stories here in our state over the last couple weeks is happening right now. This is a live look in Dodge County as Gary Day, the man accused of abducting a teenager from Beaver Dam, has made his first appearance in a Wisconsin courtroom. Now, a couple things we're going to explain about what you will see and what you will not hear over the next moment as we do this. Gary Day is the man accused in that Amber Alert that started a couple months ago, accused of abducting and taking a pregnant teenager from Beaver Dam. She was 16 at the time. Now she is 17. And it's believed that Gary Day is the father of that unborn child. There was an Amber Alert that spanned a number of states until that pair was finally found and Gary Day arrested at a gas station outside of Omaha, Nebraska. Now, initially, when the Amber Alert went out, we were using that teenager's name. It was in our reporting. It was around the country in reporting as well, because she was the subject of an Amber Alert. And first and foremost, the efforts were to get her home to her family in Beaver Dam. Since the arrest and since Gary Day was taken into custody in Nebraska, we, as well as other outlets, news and media, have made the decision not to name the teenager anymore. That's because, in this case, she is the victim of a suspected crime here, and as the result, should enjoy that privacy and not have her name out there in the meantime. Now, this being a legal proceeding, there are worries on our side that that name will be used, so that's why you're not hearing any audio from the courtroom. We're just going to stick with the visuals for you here as Gary Day makes his first appearance in a Wisconsin courtroom today. We don't want to risk having the audio from that name the teenager, who is now back with her family in Beaver Dam. So because of that, we are not going to have the audio from this court proceeding happen, but we will show you the pictures. And again, we caught a moment of it. Gary Day, now without a beard. He was arrested with a very full beard. It appeared trying to change his appearance a bit from the images that they had in that Amber Alert. Now back without a beard, has made his first appearance into a Wisconsin courtroom after he was booked into the Dodge County Jail last evening, Wednesday evening, April 16th. To get you up to speed on what you're seeing here inside of this courtroom right now, let me pull up a graphic for you as well. Gary Day is 40 years old, as I mentioned, booked into the Dodge County Jail Wednesday evening. That was after he was arrested outside of Omaha, Nebraska earlier this month. The teenage girl, the subject of that Amber Alert that lasted about 2 months, she is now back with her family. She was 16 at the time of the suspected abduction. She is now 17 years old, is still pregnant, and Day is the father of that unborn child. And to dig a bit deeper here, police say the Day was seen on surveillance video near that teenager's home back in February. Investigators say that the teenager and Day had actually been talking online and had done so for roughly a year before that. Day is now charged in Dodge County, and this is the first appearance today, charged with child abduction as well as child enticement. Again, some of the images here as we zoom out, you are seeing Gary Day speaking with his attorney there with glasses on, similar hair to what was seen in some of the photos, but notably now without the beard. When he was arrested outside of Omaha, Nebraska, he had a full, almost gray beard, and it appeared that he was trying to fairly drastically change his appearance from the photos and surveillance video that law enforcement released of him when the Amber Alert first went out. That included surveillance video from outside that teenager's home in Beaver Dam, showing Gary Day around the home around the time that this girl went missing. Again, a 16-year-old at the time who was pregnant, believed to be pregnant, with Gary Day's child. There are a lot of layers to this case today as Gary Day continues his first court appearance. And we'll get you some more of the information after they were found actually on that teenager's 17th birthday earlier this month. It was a Friday, a Friday when they were found accused of abducting that teenager from Beaver Dam. And if you're just joining us here on the Wisconsin Live Desk, again, I want to reiterate why we are not hearing, that is the wrong feed for you right now. I want to make sure we stay with the courtroom in Dodge County. Why we are not going to hear the audio from this court proceeding. There is Gary Day, the man accused of abducting and child enticement for a teenager from Beaver Dam. Because of the change in the way that we are identifying the teenage female involved in this trial. Now, first and foremost, in the past, when the Amber Alert was active, the search for this teenager was out there. We, along with other news outlets and law enforcement, were using the name, hoping that she would in fact be found, and she was. But now that that Amber Alert is no longer active, now that she is back safely with her family, and she has been identified as a crime victim now, we here at Fox 6, and I'm sure many other news outlets as well, are no longer using her name. That's to protect her privacy as the victim of a crime. We would have the audio for you normally from a court proceeding like this, but because we worry that name may be used in court there in Dodge County, we are not going to play the audio for you as we continue to see the proceedings on both sides here. I believe this is the prosecutor discussing things. To get you back up to speed, though, on what we are seeing from this courtroom, that was Gary Day's attorney. Now you are seeing the prosecutor and the judge in this trial in Dodge County. They were eventually found, the pair, nearly 500 miles from Beaver Dam, where that teenager had gone missing. And law enforcement, both here in Wisconsin and specifically the ones in Nebraska who were able to bring Gary Day into custody, really stress some amazing Good Samaritans who followed the see something, say something mantra. They were at the gas station as well outside of Omaha, saw this adult man and a younger woman, and just thought something was suspicious, that something was off, that maybe they just didn't go together from kind of the look of it. They talked to that teenage girl for a period of time, just briefly, and then eventually called 911. They went online, they saw a search for Amber Alerts, saw her picture, along with the photo of the man that investigators said she was with. It seemed to line up with the people that they had seen in that gas station outside of Omaha, and they decided to call 911. Police say initially Gary Day was trying to elude investigations and arrests. He looks quite a bit different, as we're seeing in this courtroom in Dodge County and some of the other law enforcement on standby as well. Glasses on in this courtroom, no facial hair to speak of, quite a drastic difference from the picture that we saw from his arrest in Nebraska when he did not have glasses on. He was balding, as you're seeing now, but then a very thick salt and pepper, mostly gray beard that he had on his face. It did look like quite a different person, but again, kudos to those Good Samaritans who were at the gas station, recognized that something seemed off about this connection, about this adult man with a teenage girl, and decided to look into it and call 911, which led to the arrest of Gary Day. He had also allegedly changed license plates on the car that they were supposedly driving, switching between different states as well. They may have been hitchhiking around the country. That is what one expert, Professor Emeritus at UW-Milwaukee, kind of guessed in terms of why they were at that gas station, as Gary Day is now exiting that courtroom today. So he is in custody in Dodge County, booked into jail last night, just made his first appearance in the courtroom, and now as we're seeing those proceedings, again, this was expected to be a quick update trial here, making his first appearance in court today in Dodge County, and now out of the courtroom to go back into the Dodge County jail as he is being held without bail at this point. It is the continuation of something that started 2 months ago, back in February, with the Amber Alert for this missing teenager out of Beaver Dam, and has continued to progress until she was found, along with Gary Day earlier this month. And because that shot has now gone down inside of the courtroom, I do just want to mention as well, from our reporter in the courtroom right now, Christina Van Zelst, this is thanks to our producer Delaney Reed working in the booth with me on this story today. His bond was set at $1 million in that courtroom. That's according to Christina Van Zelst, our reporter in the courtroom this morning. Also told to have no contact with minors, not just the teenager in this case, but no contact with minors, to go with the $1 million bond set by that judge today in a Dodge County courtroom. We're going to take a short break here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. That was the story of the day we were anticipating here in the state of Wisconsin, an Amber Alert that spread across a number of states before that pair, Gary Day and a pregnant teenager believed to be carrying his child, were found in Omaha, Nebraska earlier this month. On the other side of this break, we'll try to get you back to the White House. The president is still speaking with the Italian Prime Minister and other officials in the Oval Office, and we'll get you back to Florida State for an update on the investigation into a shooting on campus in Tallahassee, Florida. That's all on the other side of this break.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Good afternoon. The Wisconsin Live Desk rolls on here. Carl Deffenbaugh joining you from our Milwaukee studios just past the hour, 1:01 on this Thursday afternoon. We're going to get you back to the Oval Office and the president speaking, as well as reports from Florida State, an update from officials there on campus after a school shooting at the Tallahassee school this morning. But we're going to start with our reporter, Stephanie Quirk, who is covering a serious story here in Milwaukee for us on the Wisconsin Live Desk. Let's get you out to Stephanie right now, something that we had for you on our morning show, Steph, and there's a lot of layers to this story. So first of all, tell us where you are in the city of Milwaukee and what you and your photographer have seen since you've gotten to this scene.
Yeah, absolutely, Carl. And I'm actually going to have photojournalist Katie Brose pan right here so you can see just what's left over of this scene, this incident that happened around 3 a.m. this morning. Milwaukee police are now investigating a deadly shooting and crash. You can see, look at that debris there. Investigators tell us a driver crashed into a parked car, that parked car right there near 23rd and Clerk just before 3 a.m. You can see the aftermath of this scene. They say the driver had been shot and he died at the scene. And you can see, debris, and the car appears burnt because a fire started. Milwaukee police say they are investigating the fire and also how that fire started. They wouldn't tell us any additional details about that, but you could see just the damage after. Also want to note that the car that crashed into this parked car, Milwaukee police say that car was reported stolen over the weekend. We don't know who the driver was in this case, who passed, but we're working to learn those details, and we'll hear soon, hopefully, how the fire started and kind of what went down here, Carl.
Yeah, you're reporting, of course, the police investigation continuing throughout the day. Again, just before 3 o'clock this morning or so, this happens in this neighborhood. Interesting that car, I remember from our morning show, was stolen only about 2 miles away. This is near that stretch of Fond du Lac Avenue, 145. The car stolen about 2 miles away.
Right.
It ends up days later, crashed in the relative vicinity there. And again, just to reiterate what I think I heard there, Stephanie, so far police don't even know the identity of the driver of that car who had gunshot wounds, let alone a suspect in this?
Yeah, so they're still investigating that. They did not identify the driver. It's unclear whether they know who the driver was, right? Or any other suspects that are related to this case. But what we've been doing out here, we've been talking to neighbors in this area who say, when this crash happened, they heard a loud boom, and then they looked outside and saw a ton of smoke from the fire and the crash. And so just a lot of unanswered questions here as Milwaukee police are investigating that we're trying to kind of comb through and see what we could figure out and piece together what happened here as police do as well.
Yeah, not at all the way anyone expected to wake up around 3 in the morning there in that Milwaukee neighborhood. A car crash, and it turns out the driver of that car, a stolen car, had gunshot wounds and died at that scene. All right, Stephanie, thank you very much, and thank you to Katie as well, your photojournalist. We'll let you get back to it here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. Look for their reporting later today on Fox 6 as well as Fox Local. Now, in the meantime, we wanted to get you back to the White House. I mentioned President Donald Trump speaking with the Italian Prime Minister. That continues from the Oval Office. These world leaders supposed to be allies of each other. They come from both of the conservative right-leaning sides of their respective governments and political parties. Let's listen in to the questions from reporters and some of the remarks from these two world leaders, the Italian Prime Minister and President Donald Trump, live in the Oval Office here on the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Millions of people living right now that are dead. You'd have cities that would be open and thriving and that have their beautiful turrets. Those turrets are the most beautiful in the world, but they're not with us any longer. They're smashed to smithereens, laying on the ground in a million pieces, getting hit by rockets, bombs, and bullets. And so I'm not happy with him, and I'm not happy with anybody involved. I think it's a war. I know it's a war. It didn't happen for 4 years. It was never close to happening. It was never even a thought. And I spoke to President Putin about it a lot. It was the apple of his eye, but there's no way he would have ever gone in if I were president. Now I'm trying to get him to stop. because, as you know, Russia's a lot bigger. It's a bigger military force. And if you're smart, you don't go involved and get involved in wars that you can blame the man that was sitting in this seat, Biden. He didn't know what the hell was going on. But I can guarantee you that, and everybody agrees to it, if I were president, that war would have never taken place. I'm not blaming him. But what I am saying is that I wouldn't say he's done the greatest job. Okay? I'm not a big fan. I really am. I'm not a big fan.
Discusso di Cina, che è la possibilità che l'Europa ponga dei dazi, diciamo, sulla Cina. Mr. President, are you sure about the definition of parasite of European? Would you say again that European are parasites? Would you say again that European are parasites?
Said that
Yeah.
Europeans are parasites?
Yeah.
Have you said it?
No, I haven't said. I don't know.
He didn't say it.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
President Meloni, may I ask you if you have discussed the
Prime Minister
possible...
No,
Meloni.
wait. Next.
President,
Go.
Thank you. Prime Minister Meloni just said we want to make Europe great again, and we want to do it together with the United States. Did you? I guess that's what you said, Mr. Prime Minister. How are you going to do that? And are you looking to do it to counter China, who is really trying to gather influence against the United States with the help of a disjointed Europe?
I hope that Europe is going to be great again. Europe is going through a lot of problems, and a lot of it's having to do with immigration. And I'm not a big fan of Europe and what they've done with immigration at all. And I think they got to get smart, because Europe is being very badly hurt by what they've done with immigration. Now, I'll say this, that the Prime Minister has taken a very tough stand on immigration. And I commented to her before. I said, I wish more people would be like you, having to do with that subject, but they're not. Europe is very important to me. Europe is very important to the world. I want Europe to do very well. I think they have to get a lot smarter on immigration.
But we are beginning doing it. You will see now the policies of the European Union in the last, let's say, 2.5 years have been changing. Okay, at the beginning we were talking only about how we were redistributing illegal migrants coming to Italy. Now we are talking mainly about how to stop illegal migration, work with the countries of origin and transit, and to return people. The European Commission just did the new rules about repatriations and things like that. So things are changing, thanks also to the example that Italy brought in lowering the rates of illegal migration. So we are working now together. So I'm optimistic on that.
Good.
We're going to have to take another break here on the Wisconsin Live Desk, but I want to update you on a couple of the things we missed from that Oval Office briefing there. First and foremost, the president started that meeting in the Oval Office by acknowledging the shooting at Florida State University, saying, quote, "It's a horrible thing. It's horrible that things like this take place," and that he has been fully briefed on what is happening farther south in Florida. The Italian Prime Minister there, Giorgia Meloni, also says that Trump has accepted an invitation for an official trip to Italy, though no date has been disclosed. Vice President J.D. Vance actually leaves Friday for his own visit to Rome. And then besides that, outside of relations between Italy and the United States, President Trump also said that after a series of false starts, the U.S. is ready to deal with Ukraine on access to critical minerals in Ukraine, and perhaps working with that as a way to work towards an end of the war between Russia and Ukraine. Trump said in this Oval Office meeting, quote, "We have a minerals deal." Of course, it was another Oval Office meeting between President Trump and the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky that blew up and ended what was supposed to be a signing of an agreement for mineral rights between those two nations. While those questions continue in the Oval Office, we will take a short break here on the Wisconsin Live Desk, try to get you some more updates from the president as well as updates from Tallahassee, Florida, the shooting on campus at Florida State University, after this on the Wisconsin Live Desk.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Hey, Carl Defenbaugh here, 113. The Wisconsin Live Desk rolls on here from our studios in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We had the story of the day here in the state, the first appearance for Gary Day, the man accused of abducting a Beaver Dam pregnant teenager in an Amber Alert that spanned a couple months. We had that for you. We are going to get you back to the White House, where President Donald Trump is meeting with the Italian Prime Minister, members of his cabinet, his VP also on hand for that meeting. But first, we want to get you a little bit more information on what happened at Florida State University today, as we give you another live feed here from Tallahassee and some updates, including one passed along. I can give a shout out to my fellow co-anchor here on the Wisconsin Live Desk, Ben Handelman, letting me know that there were some updates in this case. So thank you, Ben. We want to tell you that a suspect has been brought into custody in Tallahassee. That is according to police at Florida State. A suspect taken into police custody. We also know that multiple victims were reported after a shooting in or near the student union on Florida State's campus. Now, that is being shared with the Associated Press. At least 6 people, according to a spokesperson for the local hospital, Tallahassee Memorial, have been hospitalized. One of those people is in critical condition. The other patients were believed to be in serious condition. There has been a steady stream of police vehicles, ambulances, fire trucks, other law enforcement agencies, including the FBI, on scene, on campus in Tallahassee. This is, if you're familiar with the town or not, sits just west of the state capitol in Tallahassee after the university issued an active shooter alert around 11 o'clock local time, their Eastern time. So it was around noon their time, 11 o'clock here in the Midwest. It was around noon Eastern time, right around the lunch hour. This active shooter alert went out, and that was the alert from the FFCU alert system of an active shooter reported in the area of the student union. Staff, students, and the like were told to shelter in place and await instructions, lock and stay away from all doors and windows. Now, just about, as I do the math here, just over 2 hours since that first alert went out, we continue to see live pictures of first responders in the area of the student union. And according to the Associated Press, which heard from a spokesperson at Tallahassee Memorial Healthcare, at least 6 people have been hospitalized. That includes a person in critical condition, the others in serious condition. And police also say that a suspect has been taken into police custody. Let's get you something else. This is the beauty of the Wisconsin Live Desk. Things just pop up and we can take you there live as they're happening. Let's listen into where this is. I'll try to work with our producer on the desk, Delaney. This is ELC 5. Any idea who we are listening to right now?
This is from the Menendez brothers resentencing hearing.
So that's what I thought. From a courthouse in Los Angeles County, day 1 of the resentencing hearing for the Menendez brothers, Eric and Lyle Menendez. Let's see what we hear. Looks like just ending there as people are coming out of the courthouse. This was expected to be a 2-day trial at least, if not more than that, as a resentencing is considered for the 2 brothers convicted of killing their parents. The deaths happened in 1989. They were sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole in 1996. And now, almost 3 decades later, there's a questioning if a resentencing could mean they would be able to leave prison. This is happening in the moment out in Los Angeles, California right now, day 1 of this resentencing hearing as the photographer makes his way back outside the courthouse. Let's get you back to the White House for what is happening between the President of the United States and the Italian Prime Minister.
Thank you.
And it appears those photographers and members of the news media also being ushered out of the Oval Office after that briefing from the president and the Italian Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, about some partnerships between the country. They were supposed to discuss tariff agreements as well. Now, right now, we also got a few words of updates on the state of the global economy in the wake of the sweeping tariffs that the Trump administration announced. You saw the man sitting on the couch there in one of those images in the middle. That was Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, who was asked a question or responded to a question asked by Trump to comment on trade negotiations. Bessent noted that the administration right now is working on about 15, the big 15 economies first on any possible trade deals between the U.S. and some of the main trading partners around the country, saying that other administration officials had held talks on Wednesday with Japan. Today, the Italian Prime Minister in D.C. and Scott Bessent said South Korean officials will be visiting next week as well. We have to take another break on the Wisconsin Live Desk, but on the other side, we'll try to get you back to Tallahassee, California, Washington, D.C., and here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. The news as it happens on the Wisconsin Live Desk.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. Carl Deffenbaugh hanging out with you here on this Thursday afternoon in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It's just around 1:20 or so, but we've had news from all over the city of Milwaukee, the state of Wisconsin, and the country for you over the last 40 minutes or so. First and foremost, Gary Day, the man accused in an Amber Alert that started a couple months ago, eventually arrested earlier this month in Nebraska, made his first appearance in Dodge County Court today. A bond set at $1 million, ordered to have no contact with minors, as well as he is charged with child abductment and enticement after that Amber Alert involving a pregnant teenager from Beaver Dam believed to be carrying his unborn child. We also had news of that car fire and crash, a deadly shooting and crash in Milwaukee, as a stolen car from over the weekend shows up burned out on fire with a dead man inside, shot around 3 in the morning here in Milwaukee. That was our Stephanie Quirk bringing you that story. And then a roundup of what else we're following around the country for you. First and foremost, we will continue to give you live looks here at Florida State's campus, where we are seeing the shelter in place continuing on the campus of Florida State University, as well as updates from officials that a person was taken into custody, a suspect, by police today. Multiple victims, 6, according to one spokesperson for the Tallahassee Memorial Hospital, at the hospital right now. One of those 6 in critical condition, the other patients in serious condition, although authorities are still trying to work out the details of what happened. A shooting on campus, as this alert first went out around the Student Union around 12 o'clock local time in Tallahassee, the capital city of Florida, 11 o'clock our time here in the Midwest. We are also keeping an eye on that courthouse in Los Angeles where the resentencing hearing continues for the Menendez brothers, Eric and Lyle Menendez. If anyone else steps outside that courthouse with an update on what's happening inside, we'll bring that to you live. In the meantime, though, we will get you to a Department of State press briefing. This is the spokesperson for the U.S. State Department giving an update on U.S. relations when it comes to a number of issues around the world. Let's listen in live here on the Wisconsin Live Desk.
But that is the bright red line. And that's going to be discussed in private between the people who are assigned to have that conversation. And if there's anything, we know it's what is acceptable and not acceptable to President Trump. And that position has been clear.
I understand that.
Yes, ma'am.
But at a much lower level, something 5% plus, the question was whether they have to give up all uranium.
And you know, if we were in Rome and having lunch, we could have the conversation. I will certainly will not at all presume what diplomatic conversations or now what might be negotiations. I'm not going to presume about them or comment or have an opinion. You had a second part. Yes, ma'am.
Second issue. There has been an attempted hijacking on an airplane internally in Belize, Tropic Air, and it involved an alleged hijacker who was a U.S. citizen who, according to law enforcement reports down there, was fatally shot on a confrontation with police. He's been identified as a U.S. citizen and a passport holder. Does the State Department have anything on this?
Not yet. We watched that unfold, I think, as everyone else did. Horrifying. We are grateful, I think all of us are, that did not turn into a mass casualty event with, I believe, over a dozen people on the plane. Clearly, we know a few details. We don't know much more. But as I was actually working on the briefing, that came across my timeline. It came across yours, and it's terrifying. But thank God we don't know about injuries or any other details, so I certainly can't comment. But it seems like there was obviously effective law enforcement on the ground, and that's all I have for you now. But obviously we're watching it as well. All right. Yes, Humaira.
Hi, Tammy. Thank you.
Back
to your comments a moment ago that Matt also picked up. The civilized world wants to see if Russia is serious. So we're just trying to understand what exactly is the United States waiting, given Russia rejected President Trump's proposal. What exactly are the metrics here? And given Secretary said, we will see in weeks. Like, what are you waiting to see? And is the administration starting to put together a plan B if it becomes clear to the administration that Russia is not serious?
Well, obviously, I can't talk about the specifics of what the president has said to other people or what those decision lines are. We do know that, and also I would say, I would push back a bit on your contention that the Russians have rejected something. Again, that's based on perhaps what you've observed and what others have observed. I don't know what the conversations are, what's been stated between any of the parties. So we can't go there. But what we do know, and what the Secretary has said often and what the President says, is that we are going to judge people based on their actions, not their words. And that is a universal standard that we will be using. And I think that's important. As far as the metrics, those again, that's why you go and you meet people face to face or you have conversations. And that's what we're doing. That's an important dynamic of determining, as many people have argued, about whether or not who's serious, who isn't serious. And we've seen the actions that our friends, the Ukrainians, have taken, which is a commitment to a full ceasefire, the nature of the actions that they've said that they would do. That has been clear from the start. And it's understandable. You've got two parties here, and we have a standard. And so that's why, though, we have now, again, our best and brightest are in Paris, making this determination, which is clearly complicated. And as far as the Secretary noting it'll be a matter of weeks, that again is a judgment and a statement that I think all of us can understand on a timeline, but clearly is based in what it is they say that they expect to see. I am not privy to that, And those conversations, of course, all day long and continuing on right now, I would guess are to determine that.
Right. Just one follow-up. The French actually, even though the conversations are ongoing, they described the current conversations so far excellent, positive, constructive. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but do you have some adjectives to describe how it has been so far?
Yeah, I think it's nice when any party to a conversation of this sort believes that it's positive. And that's great. That's great news. It's good news. What I care about is what President Trump and Secretary Rubio think when it comes to what they have asked for and what they expect and what the United States expects. That is the standard that the world looks for, and we'll know then what will come from that. The French being happy is fabulous. I love the French. I love Paris. It's a great country. It really is. And one must go. I know there's, stuff about the French in America, but it really is. Traveling is wonderful. Meeting people is terrific. And the French are great people. But what I do know is that through today, as they've been talking in that wonderful, exquisite capital, more people have died.
As the spokesperson there for the State Department continues the briefing, we did get that update from her as well as other outlets that a plane was hijacked in Belize. The suspect in this identified as a U.S. national. So that is a story sure to continue to make headlines around the world today. Elsewhere, we want to show you one more shot from Tallahassee, where the shooting on campus continues. A suspect is in custody, while 6 people at least are at the hospital, one of them in critical condition. And then here in Wisconsin, a note just before we leave you, Gary Day, the man accused of abducting a pregnant teenager from Beaver Dam, $2 million was the bond set for him. I misspoke earlier, said $1 million, $2 million. That's the story of the day here in the state of Wisconsin. Thank you for watching the Wisconsin Live Desk. We'll be back tomorrow.
With the first pick in the 2025 NFL Draft.
As the stage rises in the NFL's smallest city, so does excitement.
The NFL selects Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Now the Packers prepare to play host the only way they know how.
What floored the NFL was we suggested we also include, are you offering a bathroom and tailgating?
This week on Green Bay on Draft, we dive into the pieces of Packers culture all over this event as the state hopes for a good impression with all of the sports world watching. Welcome back. It is the 3rd episode of this limited edition video podcast here at Fox 6 Green Bay on Draft. So glad that you have found us, that you are engaging with this content, whether you're watching on Fox Local or listening wherever you get your podcasts. We are honored to be joined today by Fox 6 political reporter Jason Calvi. Jason, thanks for joining Green Bay on Draft.
Awesome to be here, Sam.
So if you're thinking, why in the heck is a political reporter here talking about a sports event? Well, there's a lot of crossover, perhaps, in I guess, looking at what big events can do for cities. And also, it's an all-hands-on-deck effort here at Fox 6. A lot of us are pitching in to do these draft stories, and Jason has one that we will talk about. The focus of this episode is a bit of this Packers pilgrimage that the team, the NFL, are encouraging fans to come and experience, in that if you don't want to pay the money to come to a game, you can go to this free event. You can still get inside Lambeau Field, kind of feel what Packers fans feel, and get that experience kind of checked off your bucket list, so to speak.
That's right.
My first question, have you ever been
to a draft?
To Lambeau Field?
I've been there, yes. I brought the kids, and not for a game, but just to go in the atrium.
Yep.
And see the statues and walk around, see all the the pro shop and all that kind of stuff. So it's I mean, my sons now have gotten really, really, really excited about sports, especially Jonah, who's my 10-year-old. He's taking notes on listening to the radio broadcast of the Brewers games, and he's taking notes on how they did, and he's listening to the Cubs games as well, coming from the Chicago broadcasters.
Sure.
Blaring into Wisconsin here.
So even as a family experience, there is something for everyone there. In looking at this, we've done some reporting, been up to Green Bay over the last couple of months in preparation and in leading up to this draft. And there's kind of 3 big pillars that are the NFL is leaning into to make this Packers forward experience. We're talking about rentals, short-term rentals and houses, parking, which is a really interesting. You don't think of parking cars as super interesting, but it is really interesting in Green Bay, given the history and just purely the location of Lambeau Field, smack dab in the middle of a neighborhood. And third, something that Ted Perry had teased, wanted to talk about in the first episode, if you were watching and wrote it down on a piece of paper, I said, no, not yet. Talking about bikes, and that is the Packers training camp tradition that dates back to 1958. So let's start on rentals. Green Bay just doesn't have the hotel space. It's about 8,000 to 9,000 in that area. So obviously they are looking elsewhere where visitors, fans, even employees that are coming to work this draft can stay.
That's right. And so they're looking at people staying in Milwaukee, staying in Madison, staying in Sheboygan, Fond du Lac, around the entire state, or at least this part of the state, and driving up each day for the draft. So there's going to be shuttle buses also, as we're talking about the economic impact. There's going to be shuttle buses leaving Milwaukee every morning, going to Green Bay, taking a busload of football fans from hotels, from bars in Milwaukee to Green Bay, and then they'll come back at midnight or so after the round of draft picks are picked, and they have the excitement of being in Green Bay. They can come back to Milwaukee to stay in their hotels here. So there's going to be a lot of people staying in Milwaukee. We're looking at some of the hotel numbers, and when you're looking at that week of the draft, when you're looking at the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, potentially, front end Wednesday, and then it starts on Thursday with people coming in a day early maybe. That week, particularly the weekend, we had about 10% booked out when you're talking about back in January for Milwaukee for the week of the draft. Now in early April, it was up to 60%. So you see that spike of interest. And what they're estimating is that a large percentage of the people coming to the draft are going to be driving in. So there's not many ways to get to Green Bay unless you're a Vikings fan, right?
Seriously. You're going to have to come up either 43, 41, whichever your preference is. That's also where I think a lot of homeowners and or property owners in Green Bay and in Schwabenand are trying to capitalize on this. Brown County stood up this permitting process for them to convert their homes into short-term rentals. We went up there, we talked with some people that are trying to do this, both property management companies as well as your Joe Schmo elderly couples that have lived in a house for 30, 40 years and are saying, hey, what about us? And it's so interesting, the opportunity to stay within a stone's throw of Lambeau Field in a house where if you have a group of 8 to 10 people, it's probably more cost effective to actually go stay in a house. What is interesting, though, as we continue to get closer and closer, I think, is so many people perhaps were misled or took a bit too big of a swing in posting the price for their house. We saw one that was listed on one of the rental sites for tens of thousands of dollars a night. Wow. And it's like, this is a free event. It's not the Super Bowl, as we've said on this program multiple times. And so, these people are trying to share the experience of living next to an NFL franchise, living literally sometimes in the shadows of Lambeau Field. And they are hoping that as the draft gets closer, maybe people on impulse say, you know what? Yeah, let's go. Hey, great. I found this house we can stay at. Boom. And it's right there. But it says a lot that, especially in the Packers pitch, that they wanted this event to be a statewide event, frankly, because it has to be. They don't have the apparatus in terms of hotels to house that many people.
In your interview with Mark Murphy, he talked about what the NFL required of them in order to get the draft. They didn't qualify in Green Bay.
No,
they have 8 to 9,000 hotels. They had to have 40,000 hotels right in the area for the draft. There's not 40,000 in Green Bay.
So that's their hope for the Super Bowl, which Green Bay, just by virtue of temperature, will never have. But they still want you to have this surplus in that people can easily get around. I think eventually, kind of as a swan song for Murphy, they said, you know what? We're going to give this to you. You guys will figure it out.
Yeah.
And so that's where Milwaukee comes in. Appleton comes in. I mean, I've seen people posting their rental homes up in Door County. So if you're willing to drive a little bit, absolutely, or take a shuttle. And so actually, that's a good segue, because one of the stories that you have done is a Milwaukee tourism group, or a tour group, I should say, that is standing up their own kind of draft specific tour. How did this come to be, and why are they doing this?
So it's City Tours, MKE, and they're offering a tour just for that week. So it's going to be the Monday before the draft and then through the Monday after the draft. So 1 week only, special tour. City Tours does tours around Milwaukee, historical tours, bar dive tours. But this tour will be just that week of the draft, an NFL-themed tour. There's a lot of history, as you talked with Ted 2 weeks ago or a couple weeks ago about his story, looking at how the NFL draft was actually in Milwaukee at one point in time in the early years. So those are some of the sites that this tour is going to show you. It's going to bring you to the former site of County Stadium, where the Packers would play, and the tour guide is going to show you this is where the football players did not like playing at County Stadium because it was designed for baseball players. Yep. What is baseball equipment? You got a jersey, your glove, your bat. It fits in a small locker. When you have the big pads and the helmet and all that, the football players, there's not enough room for them inside County Stadium, according to the tour guide. So that's going to be all part of this tour, trying to give football fans that are in town, staying at the hotels, a chance to experience more of football culture and that's historical story of Milwaukee hosting the Packers for many games.
And I think that history is taken for granted, especially locally. It's almost like lore that if you grow up in Wisconsin and your parents are Packers fans, then chances are you're a Packers fan. Chances are you're going to hear the lore, the history, and whatever. And it's just what you know growing up here. So you take it for granted. You almost assume that every other franchise has that kind of historical levels to it. They don't. Some do, certainly, but not like this, in that this is this neighborhood franchise. And to that end, I'm sure they talk about on the tour, without County Stadium, without Milwaukee, the Packers may not survive. Yeah. And so I think that it's fitting that all these years later, even though they don't play any more games here in Milwaukee, that they're saying, look, we're bringing a big event here. It's time that the entire state benefits from this. The number that they're throwing out is $94 million. Mm-hmm. I think only $20 million of that is supposed to be like actually in Green Bay proper. Right. So we'll see what happens there.
And that's, Visit Milwaukee. It's the tourism organization here, Convention and Visitors Bureau for Milwaukee. They're not sure what piece of the pie they're going to get, right? They know the estimate for the state is $94 million. When you look at what Detroit got, I mean, that was record-shattering draft last go-around. It was, huge numbers there, 775,000 people. Here in Wisconsin, they're expecting 240 to 300,000. So a smaller crowd, but still the money, the money for Detroit was $213 million economic impact for Detroit and surrounding counties. We're expecting a lot smaller chunk of that, maybe 94 million, but still that's going to be spread across potentially businesses across this part of the state.
And that's a substantial amount of money that, that figure, economists always attack that figure because they don't know how it's calculated. It's not economists generally coming up with that money or that figure, that total. But Detroit did commission that study. It wasn't them themselves doing it. It was actually a professor. And so that speaks to the level of investment that happens that wouldn't otherwise happen. Sure, you have some events that people will go to in the weekend, but not quite like this.
Yeah, and these people are coming, what that study from the Washington University in St. Louis professor found was the people are traveling in to be part of this draft. And it's kind of what Visit Milwaukee is estimating is that people are likely, the largest percentage of people coming to the draft are coming from a 6-hour drive. So think about what cities are within 6 hours of Green Bay.
A lot.
Yeah.
Especially in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
But they're looking for people to come from all over and kind of have this Packers pilgrimage that they keep talking about, which I want to transition to parking because I find this story so fascinating. We have a very distinct tailgating culture here in Wisconsin. You've been out to opening day with the Brewers before. It's a thing. The Brewers want to protect their pavement almost at all costs. The Packers used to have that. They threw out some of those lots for what is now the Titletown District, and I think most people would say, you know what, that was the right decision. But now, looking at a stadium that I believe its capacity isn't quite 100,000, but it's getting up there. Those people need to park somewhere. And so that's where property owners come in. And whether they're in Green Bay or Ashwaubenon, there are some people that own houses around the Lambeau Field that capitalize on this. They can get upward of maybe 10 to 20 cars on their lot, depending on how big their lot is. There are some lots that just sit vacant and they're used for parking.